Okay, right. Let's have a little look. Going to see whether this is going to work any better. I've decreased the bit rate and also increased the latency. So I'm hoping that this is going to help a little bit. Yeah, we're just going to see. We're just going to see whether that works or not. So let's have a look. I seem to be live. I'm just going to unmute myself, just to check that my microphone's still working. Okay, right. Let's have a little look. Okay, we will see. We will see. It's yeah, 30-second delay, lower bit rate. So that should actually just about enable us to hopefully just stream without too many problems. Okay, so coming towards the end of this game, it's a Rook and 4 versus Rook and 3, and actually just a draw. This ending, pretty well known. Leela can draw this one. Leela can actually draw this one on one node. So as I have tried a number of times, quite amazing. It doesn't make any mistakes in these sort of endings, even at one node. So you know, I mean, that's it's not going to make a mistake here. So I guess we could get some. Oh well, Stockfish is looking to swap the F pawn for the B pawn, so that should be all right. Hopefully, it's not going to last too long, and we can get on to the next game and Jeroen's opening. So so I've had one decisive result and one draw with two draws. Although, yeah, things has been quite exciting all the same. So I'm not too disappointed with that. And we're going to see Jeroen's next opening, which is quite high exit. He said 1d4, 5 moves, maybe one of the highest exits in the whole tournament. So yeah, looking forward to that. Do forgive me if I keep on drinking during the tournament. It's unbelievably hot in England at the moment. Really is incredible. So it's just drinking to keep alive. Brilliant. Okay. So yeah, I mean, why is this ending kind of drawn? The reason for it, actually, if white keeps the b pawn, then black just plays g5, creates some counterplay against the kingside pawns, and then if white, you know, ever manages to bring its king over to the queen side, there's immediate counterplay against weakened pawns. It's a very important thing, you know, this f6, g5, king g6 to f5. It's known from some classic Portish Petrojan game. It's been known for a very long time, but somehow players still forget it. But this is just a very easy draw. I mean, rook takes b3, rook takes f6, rook and 3 versus rook and 2. There's only really Keith Arkle, English Grandmaster, who wins these regularly on the English weekend chess circuit. But obviously, for an engine, this is completely trivial. So expecting a draw pretty soon, hoping that Stockfish doesn't move too many pawns. Yeah, and well, high book exit next game, and Leela as white. So yeah, you know, kind of bit of the pressure on Leela here to perform, because yeah, high book exit defending against Stockfish, always tricky. But yeah, so far we've had, what have we had? We've had one e4. We've had two 1d4 openings. We're going to have another 1d4 opening. In actual fact, we've kind of, it should be about an equal number of 1e4 openings and one d4, c4, knight f3 openings. So should have a good mix in the end. Yeah, I've got a number of 1c4 openings, I think, as well. Quite interesting. Looking forward to seeing those. It's yeah, just really, but actually really looking forward to seeing one of your runes openings, because obviously with the games that I've done, I've got, well, I've played a lot of test games. I've got sometimes a fairly good idea of what's happening, although I've been surprised so far. You know, just not totally surprised in the sense of, well, you know, this position is unlike anything I'd ever experienced, but slightly surprised, especially by Leela's choices. You know, so it's Stockfish's choices seem, yeah, more consistent to me in general, but with what I was expecting. But Leela's choices were have been quite surprising. You know, just 12b4 in the first game, which was a move that Stockfish played, but hadn't expected Leela to play it, and then yeah, this Queen c6 in this game. Just, but that's cool. That's really good. That's as long as the positions are rich enough, you know, that that the engines can, yeah, not only, you know, in my test games find different stuff, but then also in the Sufi as well. Then that's great. You know, that hopefully that'll yeah, that'll keep on going, and we'll just keep on having interesting games and different games both times. I mean, that's always the key thing. You know, it's a real shame if you know, Stockfish plays in one way as White, and then Leela plays in the same way as White in the next game. That's, yeah, that's a bit bad. I mean, it happens to some extent always. You know, especially when you're looking at these sharp lines. You know, the first 2 or 3 moves out of book are often the same, but then you're hoping that you know, the branching is going to kick in, and the wealth of possibilities is such that hey, Politavar man, hoping that the stream's a bit better now. Certainly adjusted the settings anyway, so let's hope this is going better. Not much happening here. Still 38 minutes for Leela, 17 minutes left for Stockfish. It could take a while, but we just want Stockfish to stay nice and quiet, move its rook around, and then just let the draw rule kick in. That would be really great. Yeah, I mean, this sort of rook and 3 versus rook and 2, I mean, I've drawn this many times against Stockfish in practice games. So, yeah, I mean, actually, it's one of those interesting things. I mean, I always feel that, you know, the way that Stockfish plays rook and 3 versus rook and 2, it's not quite the, you know, the optimal way to make the most of it. You know, it doesn't always try the most annoying options for a human. From that point of view, you know, you would have, yeah, you would have thought you could do a reasonable amount of work there to improve your practical chances against humans. On the other hand, you know, what does Stockfish care about its results against humans? But it is quite, you know, striking sometimes that. Yeah, you sort of think, well, I mean, you know, you've got about 5 or 6 things that you always try in rook and 3 versus rook and 2, you know, and you try them one by one all the time, you know, when you're playing in a normal human game. So it wouldn't be that difficult to sort of tell Stockfish about them, you know, you would have thought. And I think, you know, but I mean, it's a slightly different goal, right? I mean, then it's sort of using engines as a training partner, you know, that could actually not only tell you the best moves, but also the best practical chances. And you know, I mean, that's kind of, I guess that's, you know, that's going to be the next step in engines, or in tooling that's based around chess engines. You know, the you know, just something like something that can really tell you, you know, just what are the best practical chances here. I mean, there's an interesting tool, Decode Chess, which has also been part of the TCEC as well. But you know, Decode Chess can take a game, analyze it, and then give you, well, explain to you what was happening in the game. You know, that's. I mean, I guess it's not perfect yet, but I tried it before, maybe a year ago or something, and then tried it again recently. And I tried it actually in the Stockfish game. You know, that I've analysed on this channel, this incredible defensive effort from Stockfish. it was really interesting. You know, I mean, it was this all the key points, you know, really were mentioned. You know, and that was quite impressive. The only thing is that also, you know, obviously, you know, a number of points that aren't key are also mentioned, and then you always wonder, you know, how strong a player do you need to be to sort those out from each other. But there was really a lot of stuff that was very good that was mentioned. You know, that the engine was picking out, this is a theme, that's a theme, etc. You know, so it's yeah, definitely hope they continue with this work, because I think it's going to yeah, it's definitely something that's needed, and that would be a killer app if you could have it. You know, an engine that can explain to you, you know, what happened in the whole game, and in a language that you can understand, and then the next step would be that it could also, you know, tell you what were the best practical chances for a human player in this position, and you know, what was the best move, you know, that sort of thing. That would be incredible. It's I mean, there is plenty of good you know, of good stuff out there on the net together with engines. I mean, I mentioned before, I've been using the Chessify cloud to evaluate positions for this TCC book, you know, and that's working out really well as well. I mean, I've got good machines, so, you know, I can get a good eval, but just to you know, to try and just be 100% sure to really let you know, Leela and Stockfish do an unreasonable amount of nodes on a position to be sure about the evaluation, then that's a really incredible tool. So the only problem is it's just a little bit easy to let your machines running without realizing it. But apart from that, it's absolutely fantastic. Come on, Stockfish. 6 minutes spent already, 12 minutes left. You're not going to solve Rook and 3 versus Rook and 2 in that time. Yeah, I mean, you know, you do wonder for the draw rule whether it would be whether it would save a lot if you sort of said, you know, typical endings like this, Rook and 3 versus Rook and 2, are just automatically adjudicated as a draw. Would probably be quite complicated to implement, I suppose. But yeah, that would also be you know, also be quite valuable, really, because yeah, I mean, everyone knows this is a draw. Even the engines know it's a draw, but we're still watching them play. It's yeah, of course, maybe the best thing would be if they just started playing fast in these positions. You know, that's tough. It's but it wouldn't make much difference to quality of play whether Stockfish was playing this at a millisecond a move, or at 3 or 4 minutes a move. Ah, okay, Sammy, that's interesting. And hadn't really thought of that. That's yeah, I think you're probably right, actually. It's During asked what hardware do I use? Well, I've got at home I've got one laptop which I use really for running all of my engine games, and that's a 10-core i9 machine, so really fast CPUs. I get 18 threads for Stockfish, which is quite nice. It gives me about so it's 20,000 million nodes per second, if you see what I mean. And so it's basically a tenth of the speed of the TCC Stockfish. And I've got an NVIDIA RTX 2080 card in it, which gives me well, probably about 10 or 14 kilonodes per second. So way slower than Leela here. Probably a tenth slower normally in normal positions than Leela here. Yeah, I mean, both machines get 8 gigabytes of cache, but I think here they get 256 or something. So I mean, there's no comparison with the hardware. So from that point of view, putting the book together is always a bit of a gamble. But in general, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's more later in the middle game, really. You know that the TC machines find different moves to my hardware. You know, when stuff gets really complicated and they can just calculate, you know, really a lot, really quickly. You know, and that's you know that's where I think the real difference is. I mean, I think that's where I've spotted the most differences. You know, that I've been analysing games from the TCEC, and you know the Stockfish at TCEC plays some fantastic move, and my hardware just doesn't find it. You know, just when I'm playing my long play games. So that's when I've really noticed it. But in openings, not so much. I don't think. You know, I think you know, the choices that are made are not so different so far. You know, it's. But I mean, basically, you know, in order to run Stockfish and Komodo, you need to have fast CPUs and lots of them, really, so that you can put as many threads as possible on Stockfish. That does really help, you know, for the speed. And then an NVIDIA graphics card, an RTX card, you know, probably, you know, anything from 2060, 2070, 2080, or 3080, if you're really lucky. Yeah, well, thing is, you know, I mean, when I bought my stuff, it was quite cutting edge, Tiranesta, and then within within a month and a half, you know, it was out of date, really. So, you know, at some stage, it just has to be fast enough, you know, and that's cool. And yeah, you know, if I really want to think I really, you know, want something really fast to look very deep at something, then I just go for the Chessify Cloud and do that. But I run a lot of machine games. I always did it, you know. I run a lot of machine games just in my openings, just to see how you know, how does Leela play, how does Stockfish play. Is it the positional machine that's scoring better, or is it the tactical machine? You know, so I always did this. So it's always good to have one good, you know, reasonably powerful machine to run that. Yeah. So just four ply, come on. And I don't think that that Stockfish is thinking about moving up. It's going to end now, and that we can get on to the next opening, which would be lovely. Yeah, there's no way a pawn's going to move now. I don't know. Yeah, no, but yeah. I mean, the good thing is that neither Stockfish nor Leela know about the 10-ply rule, TCC rule, so they're not going to try and keep the game moving and ruin it. Oh, what I like doing, Carlos, is I like playing against Leela. Because Leela, you can adjust its strength very easily. You just adjust the number of nodes that it searches. So the number of moves, single plies that it searches when playing. And yeah, I mean, it always plays great positional chess, but the number of nodes that it searches, that sort of determines whether it's really good tactically or quite poor tactically. And I find that a very useful way of playing. You know, gives me a much better sort of human feeling for you know, just okay, I've got something that's going to play reasonable moves but make the occasional tactical mistake, just like a human. So actually, there's yeah, there's a big passage in a big thing in section in the book, The Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, all about that. About how I use Leela for that. So Leela I like playing a lot. I have played loads of trading games against Stockfish, but yeah, I mean, that's more a thing of you know, it's a little bit of torture, but that's really, you know, I want a big test. I'm going to play my best openings, I'm going to take it seriously, and then I'm just going to you know, see how far I come. I mean, that's just a big test of yourself. Whereas the Leela approach is much more yeah, much more user friendly, you know, and you even win some games as well, you know, so that's pretty good. It's I mean, I think, you know, what people actually forget a little bit is, you know, working with engines doesn't have to be painful. It can also be a lot of fun as well. But you've got complete freedom. You can do all sorts of things with your engines. So you know, just got to try and be a bit creative and work out how to do that. Yeah, it's true. It's true, Andre. But I find that it works much better with Leela, because Leela's always got its evaluation, which is fantastic. And then you just slowly add the tactical. If you reduce nodes on Stockfish, it tends to play bad positional moves as well. So I find the level increase is much more, yeah, it feels much more natural on Leela than on Stockfish. But you're absolutely right. You can reduce nodes on all the machines. I mean, Aloril on the channel, he was running tests between you know, Stockfish with using 1 million nodes and 10 million nodes and all of that, and it was very interesting. But I mean, really, there was you know, felt like a massive strength increase, you know, moving from 1 million to 10 million nodes, whereas, you know, Leela on one node, yeah, it's probably IM strength, kind of, you know. And certainly if you're going to play it at equivalent speed, so like bullet speed or something, then probably much more than that. It really is amazing, Leela on one node. Right, we have the new opening. Ta-da! The Czech Benoni. My goodness, 1.51 from Stockfish. That's right. Yeah. No, Leela is just the intuition, you can say, at one node. It's very strong. It's very strong. Surprisingly strong, I have to say. Some openings, it's really amazingly strong. The 6 bishop e3 Najdorf, where black plays 6 e5. Wow, it really does play that well, even just with one node. So Mr. B does, it's a Leela Lula Leela time. So there we are, coming with a 50,000 channel points opener. There we are, excellent. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting one. So the Czech Benoni, I always tell the same story, I'm afraid. So apologies when you've heard it 20 times before. But Czech Benoni, I mean, this was a big favourite of the English players. William Hartston, English IM, started it in the 70s. And then it was taken up by many players, including Tony Miles. And Tony famously played it against Garry Kasparov in a match, which I think, did Tony lose it 5.5-1/2? It's the match where Tony said that he was fed up playing this monster with a million eyes who saw everything. Yeah, when you think that was only Garry, he hadn't met Stockfish yet, but it's yeah, it doesn't have a great reputation, the Czech Benoni. Tony always said that he played it once every 5 years because that was the amount of time it took him to forget how bad it was. And the standard yeah, it was, yeah, you just came across in the English team that if you just got a really bad position, then people just said it was a bit Czech Benoni. So Michael Adams was always made me laugh, you know, said, oh yeah, it's a bit Czech Benoni, that one, you know. So yeah, bad reputation, the Czech Benoni, but it's not so bad. It's not so bad, really. I mean, the one big problem with it is that you know, the structure is very interesting, but playing it this early, you know, it gives White all the time in the world to put his pieces properly. I mean, if that's one of the beautiful things about the delayed Benoni. There's a great book by Ivan Ivanasevich, a GM from, oh, I'm not quite sure which, quite where he's from, but and you know, he sort of gets these Czech Benoni structures, but having waited until White's castled kingside. And that makes a lot of sense, you know, but normally, you know, against the Czech Benoni, black castles, White goes h3, g4, and then it's just torture all the way. But, oh, let's have a look. From Aloril, Stockfish, biased openings, threads, 100 million versus 10 million, plus 17. Wow! My goodness me. Biased openings, 17 wins, 29 draws. That's huge. My goodness. Really interesting test that Aloril is running there. Just just trying out Stockfish with different number of nodes and seeing what the differences are. Yeah, are they bigger than I would have expected? I think so. I'm always going wow, woo. So I must be surprised. It's yeah, thanks Ofek. That's just I've always meant to do it and somehow never did. So finally got around to doing it. Yeah, Andrew Tangbeat, the old Leela that was, I think. Study cast. No, I think Andre, I think that Leela's much stronger on one node nowadays. I really think it's IM strength, and I mean, okay, if you take if you take half an hour to play your game, then okay, you'll work out all the tactical errors it makes. But really, I do think Leela's extremely strong on one node. Yeah, but this is really interesting from Stockfish. But haven't we seen this before? In some games. That's the one, the Czech Benoni, the from season 19. Yeah, that's right. This move H5 is really very good. I think it's an excellent idea. And I think that H4 is a very good move too. I mean, the point is normally that let's have a look at the position there. Let me just save that game. Who knows? Maybe I can use some of these comments in my Sufi report. Okay, so new game, edit paste PGN. So yeah, I mean, normally if black plays just the standard way that black always does, then you end up playing this sort of stuff: knight bd7, knight f3, rook e8, g4, knight f8, bishop e3, something like this, and you just get this structure in very quickly, and it's just incredibly depressing for black. When I first came back after, pardon me, a break from chess, of about 10 years, then I was playing all sorts of strange stuff, and including the Czech Benoni, but I said the structures are fun if you transpose them from King's Indians or other slightly offbeat stuff, later in the game. But to set them up straight away is not very good, really. Yeah. So, but h5. Well, you see the point of h5 really there, don't you? Already that it's actually black's kind of anticipating that white will want to gain space on the king side, and black's basically trying to grab that for itself. And yeah, if it plays h4, if black manages to play h4, then well, it just puts a bit of a break on sorry, promote that. Just puts a bit of a break on white's attempts on the king side. G3. Takes, so you have to take back with the f pawn, and then you've got all these weaknesses. This isn't a great structure for white, that sort of thing. So from that point of view, h4's a very good move, just stopping black from gaining any extra space and just trying to get this pawn on, get this square on g5. And in principle, the g5 square is more white's than the g4 square is black's, because if you put something on g4, I just go f3 and I've got no problems. Whoops, sorry. But if I put something on g5, let me just do that like that. Then chasing with f6 is always more difficult because I can put a knight into e6. It's a difference with the pawn structure in the center, right? It's having a pawn on d5 and black's got a pawn on d6. So from that point of view, this is h4 is kind of including h5. H4 is not bad for white, really. But on the other hand, I think it is very positive for black that black's got a foothold on the king side. He's not going to get overrun immediately with h3, g4, etc. I think that's quite important. Yeah, h5 not a common move at all. being pointed out in the chat. Thanks, Morton. That's yeah. I mean, it's no, not a common move at all, but I think a very good one in actual fact. So what have we got? G3, G6. Now an interesting moment. G3, G6, and black is going to play bishop H6. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting point actually in the King's Indian and the Czech Benoni, all these sort of things. You know, should you exchange off the dark squared bishop or not? Because in some ways it makes perfect sense. You know, I mean, your whole central pawn structure is on the dark squares. So you know, if you don't exchange off the bishop, it'll just be blocked by your central pawns. You know, so you know, then just exchange it, and then you've got rid of a passive piece. You know, sounds great, but it's not quite as simple as that, because you know, in the King's Indian. In the King's Indian, it's all about dynamic potential, and you've got this bishop on G7 dormant, but you go, you know, at some stage you play F5 and the center gets opened and you go E4, and all of a sudden this bishop comes to life. So I mean, sort of behind, you know, basically behind your kingside counterplay, you've got this enormous piece that's just waiting to come to life. And you know, having that, on the one hand, it's a passive piece. You know, you can end up with a terrible King's Indian where white has a knight, black has a dark squared bishop, and it's awful. But it, you know, having that bishop dormant there, ready to emerge, it also puts a little bit of a dampener on white's defenses. I mean, you know, if this bishop is on G7, we'll just play some random moves, but you'll just get the idea. Knight G4, Knight E2, F5. If this bishop is active, then if it's not there, then white might consider playing E takes F5, but you're going to be much more wary about doing it because, you know, E4 is coming in next move. So, you know, having a sort of a dormant piece there, ready to become active when the center gets opened, it's a huge, yeah, it's a big part of the King's Indian. It's the same way, you know, same thing, same role really, in a way that the light squared bishop is doing in the French. You know, if you exchange off the light squared bishops early, you think, hey, I've got rid of my bad bishop. But then that just means that all your central light squares are actually quite lacking in support. So sometimes it's much better to have the bishop, to have that terrible light squared bishop looking at its own pawns, but protecting them and then emerging at some later stage. But obviously very, you know, risky strategically. But yeah, so bishop h6, what is actually the result of that? Leela not going for bishop g5, which was actually quite interesting. Stockfish was looking at this. This was actually an interesting idea. Leela just exchanging. I mean, the result of this exchange is that, well, black's dynamism has really been flattened out. So now if you go f5, there's no pieces waiting behind that are going to get active. It's just, you're just playing f5 and nothing terrible is happening. So in general terms, you know, I always feel that black's losing more than white is losing. You know, I mean, you're exchanging off white's good bishop, potentially creating some dark squared weaknesses, blah, blah, blah. But basically you're reducing your own activity as well. And I think that's more important. I mean, I had a game in the 1998 Elista Olympiad against Guy West, and wow, could I even find this game? Would that be, because not much is going to happen in the game too early on, not with a Czech Benoni. Let me just see whether I can find the game, because it was that was really pivotal for my understanding. Before I sort of understood it, but when I actually played it once, I understood it properly. I'm just gonna try and find my games. Bear with me. 1998 Elista. Oh, so long ago. That's right, stick Guy West. Yeah, there we are. Let me just do that. going to put it? I'll just put it into downloads, then I can always find it back. Sadler West. Yeah, this is not really particularly about boasting about my own games. It's just that some of your games, they really, they're really beacons in the light, in the darkness for you. Just you really found them so revealing and important that you just never forget them. And yeah, I mean that's this game here for me. So let me just try and paste PGN. Imports. Yay, there we are. Whew. Always, it's a little bit clunky in Skid vs PC. As you can see, it was also a modern Benoni. And, well, black played h5 as well, so it's sort of transposed. Wait a minute, the board, there we are. It's sort of transposed. So black played h5 in this position. And so I played h4. And bishop h6 takes. And, this is pretty much a similar situation to what we see with Leela. And then what I did quite nicely in this game, all the time I was just rerouting my knight. So the knight comes around to e3, and it's going to be supporting f3 and g4 eventually. But there's no rush, just f3, knight e3. Also aiming at the f5 square, a6, knight c3. I've swapped my knights around, but I've got a knight round on e3. That's the most important thing. a4. Yeah, I mean, black could play a5 to block the queen side, just like Leela-Stockfish did against Stockfish in game 4. But of course, the king side is still open, so I don't really mind that too much. I'm just claiming that the b5 square that I've got is going to be useful. Well, here I decided I was going to not give black any chance of closing the queen side ever. So I just went a5, which I think was a good move. So rook b8, b3, and this is quite a well-known setup for white. I'm just dealing with any b-file pressure, just protecting the pawn on b3. So b5 takes, and now I just move my knight around again. So a key thing is I don't want to allow black to play a5 ever, so I'm going to put a break on that, and I'm going to bring my knight round to f2. Which is going to support g4, for example, and also means that I can put my queen on c3. And this is very nice. This queen's on the long diagonal. And, I mean, just imagine this position if there were dark squared bishops on. I mean, I wouldn't be able to put my queen on c3 particularly. And black would really be, would always have the chance of looking for f5. Without the dark squared bishops, black's position is really passive. There is really nothing he can do. He's just got to wait for me to do my plan, and that went pretty well really. G3, king g8, king d2, knight f8, and now I decided to play f4. I mean, I just want to take on e5 really, and then all these pawns will be weak again. Black's dark squared structure is quite weak because it doesn't have the bishop to support it. So so black went queen f6. And tried this way of doing stuff, but I just went e5, knight e4, king b2, and well, I've got a huge pawn wedge here. And I mean, what's my long-term threat? Just to take on d6 and take on c5. I'm not going to rush at all. I mean, there's absolutely no rush, but that's just what I'm going to do. So rook b6, I went rook h2. Who knows why? That's I think I was just getting out of the way of knight g3 or knight f2s. That was just it. Rook e8, rook a5, I'm looking at this c5 pawn, bishop c8, king c1, just to get out of any possible tricks on the b file. Now black went f6. I could have gone e6, but I just decided that this was much easier. Well, knight cb5 takes, and rook c6 was very powerful here. Now two protected passed pawns. Rook c3, knight b7. Yeah, I don't know whether I'd finish it off in this way nowadays, but I was always for the calculating the tactics at every possible moment, and indeed this is exceptionally good. Takes, g5, king d3, and black resigned. I'm gonna be within the square of the pawn, and then I'll just go d6, d7, d8. I mean, quite a nice game. I mean, Guy's a good player, but you know, obviously I'm in principle considerably stronger and white. You know, it's not to boast about the game, but it really made a deep impression on me. I really thought, you know, that hey, if black exchanges off the dark square bishops in this sort of structure, it's possible to be in complete control, you know, and not have any worries or anything whatsoever. You know, and I hadn't really realised that to that extent until I played the game and felt so unbelievably comfortable throughout it. You know, so yeah, that's just what I think is going to happen in this game. So intrigued. Let's have a look at that. Bishop e2. A slightly odd move, I have to say. Why would you play the bishop to e2? What? Doesn't harm anything, but just not your most natural idea. Okay. Oh yeah, I want to get the PGN. Just get the PGN. Whack, and then edit paste PGN import. Yeah, bishop e2. Why would you play bishop e2? I don't really know, to be honest. I think could imagine many better squares for the bishop, like d3 or whatever, you know. But it's not ruining anything at all, you know. So you're going to have many moves in this position. So yeah. So what plan is Stockfish looking for? This is quite interesting. Engine PV. Let's just have a look. What sort of thing is he aiming for? Wow, Stockfish. You cool cat. So Stockfish is do I still play tournament chess? Not very much recently. I mean, in recent years, last I've played mostly club chess. So for in the English Chess League for the Guildford chess team. I mean, we had some yeah, I mean some really great battles. I played some great players in those matches. Yeah, I mean that's kind of been my chess. That's about 10 games a year, and then, you know, some rapid on top and stuff like that. But yeah, with COVID, obviously, it's all been a bit complicated. Yeah, I think for the rest of this year, I'm not going to bother really, because it's just all so complicated with rules changing all the time. But I would like, you know, next year, I do, you know, vaguely have the feeling that I would love to get ready again and start playing some competitive chess. You know, it would be really nice. But yeah, but no, in principle, don't play very much nowadays. Writing mainly, and well, I mean, during the lockdown, really doing a lot of commentating. So which is great fun. I mean, I love doing it, and obviously I love doing it about the TCEC as well, which is you know, kind of yeah, something that I mean, I'm sure at some stage, you know, some of the you know, some of the bigger and better commentators are going to discover it, and that'll be fantastic, you know. But until then, it's just me, and yeah, yeah, just loving it really. Yeah, I mean, look at Stockfish's PV there, looking to play b5. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, you know, this is sort of Benko style, but the point about the Benko normally is that you've got a bishop on g7 that's cutting across the board, and that when you open the A and the B files, it's, you know, that's really, it's part of that whole counterplay. Everything's converging, bishop on g7, rook on b8, rook on a8, onto the queen side, and creating that pressure. If you play b5, you know, in this sort of structure with the pawn on e5, well, you just, you know, and I always feel you're just losing a pawn, you know, when you play a Benko style opening in this sort of structure. Yeah, so I find that a very rather confusing from Stockfish, but it's really yeah. Is it still? I'm seeing it's disappeared now, but I'm seeing a lot of b5 there in that in Stockfish's PV. So I mean, it's an interesting thing about Stockfish, you know, is that I mean, when it was just a classical engine, so only with the handcrafted evaluation, it was really I think, you know, its defense, it's a fantastic defender, but its main defense mode was you know, getting a horrific looking static position and then holding it for 150 moves. I mean, I do think that with the introduction of NNUE, that this method of defense has yeah, has really changed an awful lot, and I think you're seeing that that Stockfish NNUE, the modern Stockfish, has got a little bit of that neural net panic when it's worse, and that real compulsion to repair a bad position with some, you know, with some very direct and aggressive play. And you know, that was something that we really noticed with AlphaZero when we first came across AlphaZero, that in worse positions, you know, AlphaZero wasn't just waiting for stuff to happen. It was going to throw pawns at you to try and, you know, shake the foundations of your position in order to restabilize the position. And I think that you know, that Stockfish with the NNUE evaluation component is a little bit more like that. I think you're certainly seeing it defend a lot more actively and giving up exchanges and pawns, you know, very easily. And I mean, the key thing is that it's become an even better defender than Stockfish Classical was. So I mean, it's really worked, but I think, you know, that's kind of what's behind this A6B5, because I wouldn't have expected that from, you know, from Stockfish Classical in the old days, but from NNUE, yeah, you really do. You know, it's yeah, I mean, I don't I refer to Stockfish Classical and NNUE just to make the difference between them. You know, in principle, yeah, the modern Stockfish is just Stockfish, you know, but just when you want to make the difference between them, I call the modern Stockfish NNUE, the technology, and then the old Stockfish before that technology came along is classical. So yeah, no, this is looking quite quite interesting. Leela looking to castle queen side. Yeah, Stockfish has spent quite a bit of time already, hasn't it? Already 17 minutes. Leela a little bit faster. Castle queenside. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's, you know, it looks a bit it looks a bit sexy to castle queenside, but it's really what I explained. You know, that with this pawn structure like this and the dark squared bishops exchanged, you know, these A6 B5 attacks on the queen side, they don't achieve that much. You know, it's really it's, you know, it really is just giving away a pawn mostly. So so Leela feels pretty safe there, and obviously if you've got the king on the queen side, moving the king side pawns forward is yeah, much easier. You know, so and we're seeing here, you know, F4 in Leela's PV, you know, very quickly, and this is pretty pleasant. We can go F5 here. Let's have a look at what's happening in Leela's PV here. Queen F6, Rook F5. Yeah, this is pretty ugly, really. Rook F2. It's yeah, I mean, this is the sort of position where you just end up tying up black's pieces. Then you're going to advance a bit on the queen side, try and open a file there. Then you're just going to try and exchange everything off on the king side and then invade with your king on the queen side. It's this is going to be I would expect this to be a quite unpleasant defense for Stockfish. But wow, look at this. It's Stockfish is looking for b5. Again, looking for this this quick pawn sacrifice. So and then c4, another pawn sacrifice. Wow. I mean, essentially black's just 2 pawns down. I mean, that's the essential problem with these pawn sacrifices. I mean, I mean, this is an amazing line, but White's just completely winning here. So yeah, I don't know. This doesn't look right for Black. But on the other hand, I mean, on the other hand, what would I do as Black? If I was given this position, what would I do? I think I probably would also play A6, B5. So I think you can really say that this is a very human approach from Stockfish. But as I said, I think it's really entirely due to the NNUE component that just makes it look, really look for much more active ways to re-establish the balance rather than just being content to be sat on for hundreds of moves. Yeah, so what is Leela expecting actually? Leela's not expecting b5, I think. Castles, queen e7, and intriguing. Yeah, I mean, what Leela was expecting all the time was that Stockfish would play bishop g4, so it was kind of delaying knight f3 until, yeah, just for a while. But now after knight bd7, interesting. What is Leela going to be thinking here? Yeah, knight h3. Both of them want knight h3. Yeah, I mean it's a decent idea. Yeah, I mean you could play. It'll probably end up the same, knight f3. If you play knight f3 to g5 or knight h3, it's probably ending up the same. But you're a little bit more flexible with a knight on h3. You can play a quick f4 maybe. If ever you want to, or you could play f2 to f3 to support the e4 pawn. It's quite interesting. I mean. If I was White, thinking that that Black might play b5, I might even throw in an f2, f3 just to have avoided any problems there. But I think in principle, oh yeah, now Leela's looking at going knight f3 and then knight g5 after. It doesn't really make any difference whatsoever. So yeah. And it's just going to grab the pawns, and yeah, I mean, I really think that Stockfish is in big trouble here. I really do. This is going to be very awkward. Be a very interesting question to see how Leela handles this as Black. Quite intriguing, but it's a good choice from Jeroen, I think. I mean, again, we didn't really plan our openings together. We just sort of went away, and thought up our things and put it together and had a look, and we just thought, oh, lovely, wow, there's no overlap. It all looks quite different, to each other. We've got nice mixes and different openings, so great. Let's run with that. I suppose I think in general, I think you've seen that my openings have so far have been sharper. And Jeroen's have been more strategical. Not sure whether is that going to continue. Maybe there's going to be a little bit more of a tendency there. I mean, I think I've generally gone for sharper openings. I think probably because that just reflects my style of play and the stuff I like. But yeah, I mean, I think so far, I think Jeroen's both openings have been strategical, and we've had two quite tactical ones. And well, I guess we're seeing that Stockfish feeling a bit more at home in the tactical ones, and Leela a bit more in the positional ones. No surprise, I suppose, but also playing both playing at times very, very well in their least favourite territory. So yeah, no, looking good. Yeah, I don't think Leela's too afraid of the queenside attack. I think it's just looking greedily at the pawns it can take there. It's Stofe would manage to lose both sides of this. I don't believe so. It's yeah, Stofe is a great engine. I really do like Stofe. It's I mean, I think it's got a lot more solid recently, and it's less crazy than it used to be. But it still finds moves that really surprise you. And in these tactical battles, yeah, there are the occasional blunders, but but it does find some amazing stuff. I mean, that game that it beat Leela in Division P was was fantastic. Simply, it was really really excellent. And yeah, I don't think it was really a Leela blunder. I think just Leela lost the thread a little bit, and Stockfish capitalised. I think it was really Stockfish's good play, put it that way. Stockfish genius rather than Leela incompetence. And sometimes, yeah, I mean, yeah, in human chess you have that all the time, that you just say, yeah, the guy was too good today, and yeah, I think that was kind of it as well. And well, I think we're going to see also a few days like this in the Sufi that either Stockfish or Leela gets a crushing win, and you just have to say, yeah, they were just too good this time. But wow, there's a statistic coming up on the TCEC chat. King F8 was played 178 times by black in TCEC. Among moves that were played at least 178 times, King F8 scores the worst for black. My goodness me, that's a statistic. So Leela back to Knight H3, but the essential the essential contours of what's going to happen haven't changed at all. It is just it is just simply going to take the offered pawn on the queen side and be very happy. So I mean, 0.54 evaluation, that is possibly within the winning threshold, for Leela, but it's not 100% clear yet. And 1.19 from Stockfish, a very good position for White, but not clear yet. So it's yeah, I mean, the book exit was 0.66, wasn't it, you were saying, and now 0.54, so yeah. Yeah, trend is currently a little downwards. I think also for Stockfish as well. Yeah, going to be a tight one, this one, but certainly Leela fans cannot complain. They cannot, because I think this is really a position that I think every Leela fan would be happy to see in Leela's hands. Really the sort of position that it plays very, very well. So waiting for Leela to make a move, probably I'm not sure, maybe getting a little confused with the transposition possibilities. Knight H3, Knight F3. Is that a thing? Actually, it feels like it's a thing, really. That if it has the choice of moves which could transpose into each other, then Leela starts spending an awful lot of time on that. That's just my impression, but I don't know whether that's correct or not. Most probably not. But yeah, and you're probably right, Lars Eric. It's probably to do with that better evaluation. It knows that earlier that positions are lost, and then yeah, it just it knows it has to act earlier. Yes, castle queenside. It is quite a risky move. I mean, in my game against Guy West there, I mean, I avoided castle queenside. I just I felt the centre was going to be closed all the time, so I was quite happy to have my king in the centre and keep my rooks restricting black's play on the queenside. So yeah, queenside was a little bit maybe a little bit OTT really, but probably still a good move. I mean, yeah, in a human game you'd probably be sort of saying, well, why did I do that? When black starts going a6 b5, you'd have thought I could probably have avoided any problems whatsoever just through a different move order. So yeah, that's absolutely true. Jeroen saying that 12 b5 makes sure we don't get a shuffle game, and that's absolutely true. We're going to get some sort of Benko gambit-ish things, but where black's exchange off his dark squared bishop and block the centre. Not the best Benko gambit in the world. Ah, okay, doesn't recognise transposition, just saw two moves with the same eval. Okay. Okay. You don't know whether they fixed it or not. Oh, sorry, OTT is over the top. Sony cast, sorry. That's so Mr. B has a huge home Leela cluster running in his own data center, and it's saying 68.2% expected score. So still good winning chances there. Yeah, I mean 68.2. I always yeah, with AlphaZero, yeah, that was always, you know, sort of getting towards a clear advantage, basically. You know, 72, 73 was clear advantage. When it got to 77, 78, you're expecting that was just going to increase. So, you know, 78 isn't really a win, but it was always 78 going to 85 quickly, you know. Yeah. But Leela's going down a little bit all the time. 0.55. I know it was 0.54 before, so it's sort of stabilizing at this level. Interesting. Nope. It's always a little bit worrying when it's actually analyzing with Stockfish is always a slightly unnerving experience, because, you know, it's saying you've got to go B5, you've got to go B5, and then you play B5, and then its evaluation increases, you know, and says, oh, that wasn't a particularly good move then. You know, it's it does have a very nervy evaluation. Yeah, it's true. Somehow they don't somehow yeah, like the moves they're playing, it seems at times. But King E8 to F8 to G7. Yeah. Well, in these positions, it is quite a normal idea. King E8 to F8 to G7. I mean, yeah, I think even if you had the right to castle, you would still probably do it, because it's you know, the rook's more useful on the H file, just in case white decides to play a quick G4. So the rook's actually quite good there, more useful than on the F file. So let's have a look at the PVs, because people are saying there are many exchanges in Leela's PV. So let's have a look at that. We'll lock it. Ah, what a great tip from Jeremiah. That's revolutionized my life. So Queen A8, Knight E6. Oh yeah, Leela was going for this little tactical way of playing, which seemed a bit excessive, really. Queen D5, and we get a rook ending. Wow, I think Stockfish is going to hold this, would be my feeling. The pawns aren't great, it must be said. You've got this lovely square on G5 for a rook, you know, that defends the G pawn and then also attacks two pawns, H5 and C5. So that's nasty, but I'm not sure that I would have expected that this would be holdable. But okay, it's quite a long way. But probably if Leela decides to go Knight E6 check in this position, then probably most of that is just forced. You know, it's a very long variation, but yeah. It's not. It doesn't. Yeah, I get the feeling that there's not so much that you can change in it, really. I wouldn't have expected that this would be necessary to go this desperate. You know, I would have thought that. Well, I mean, the sort of thing that Stockfish is doing, to be honest. You know, with F5 and. Now, because the cool thing about F5 is that you just go F takes G6. And if black goes F takes G6, you go Knight G5 and get a knight into, you know, threaten to get a knight into E6. It just looks really, really dangerous, and you really get the idea that, you know, there's just a very simple kingside attack there, just waiting for you. Whereas Leela's line is a little bit odd. Is it stick? Ah, there we are, going F5. Da da. Yep, that's much better. I like that PV much better. Look at that, going F5. Then we'll go Knight G5, and yeah, this will be. This is really nice for white. This this is a very good position. So b takes a6. Yeah, actually, slightly strange to take on a6 so early. Normally just wait. I mean, again, it's just one of those habits, mannerisms that I suppose human players have, but normally you do just wait to, you always let black capture on b5 rather than capturing on a6 yourself. But I'm guessing that, that it doesn't make much difference for the tempi. Or maybe no difference at all. But it just looks odd from human perspective. It's the sort of moves that, you know, if a human plays them, then you sort of think, maybe not an experienced player, you know, because it doesn't quite do what you expect. But Leela is quite experienced, having trained on hundreds of millions of games against itself. But wait a minute, I'm just going to get another drink. Be right back. My goodness, I've got Valencian orange tonic water. My goodness, that sounds good. Yeah, there's an obvious move, so Stockfish is thinking, of course. Including casuals, how many games would I have played? Not that many, you know. A couple of thousand, probably. Now, I've got thousand, ones in the database. I've probably played about 4,000, 5,000 games in my life. So, I would guess. But not really that many. It's yeah, against computers as well. Maybe 6,000, 7,000, but yeah, not huge numbers. I'd be intrigued at how many Magnus Carlsen has played with all the Blitz events he plays. My goodness, he must be easily into the 20,000. So I mean, it's pretty clear really what's going to happen. I mean, I think we're looking at pretty much the same ending in both PVs, actually, aren't we? I mean, essentially, you know, black sacrificing a queenside pawn and essentially getting so much activity that white forces the exchange of queens. Pardon me. So, and we're essentially getting this ending, and well, to be honest, I mean, if I reached this in a game, I would assume that I was just lost as black. You know, white's got this this passed A pawn, this beautiful F file, weak pawns on the on F7, which you're going to pin the knight on F6 to the pawn on F7. Yeah, I mean, it's just it does look horrible. I mean, you know, I think what I'd be actually, can I? Oh, I can even get the PGN of the PV. Wow. Oh, guys, you've always done an amazing job with this. with this site. I mean, just you know, if you get to this position, I mean, obviously, you know, Stockfish is going to cause more problems than you would ever realise. But I mean, I would be thinking really that my main idea would be to go Rook F5. Let's just, you know, play a couple of not very interesting or important moves, and then just, you know, move this knight round to F2, D1, E3. You know, just line up on this one, get black defending this one passively, and then, you know, go for the next stage. You know, it's just maybe even just you know, go Rook G5 and G4, that sort of thing. You know, it's you just the one thing you've got to do is to get this this knight on H3 into play. It can go to G5, but it's not really doing much after that. So it really should be somewhere, you know, coming towards the queen side and the center. And then there's just nothing wrong with your position. You're just absolutely great. So, but as I said, you know, if I saw this, if I had this position in my own PV, you know, I just assume, yeah, of course, white is winning, absolutely winning, no chance. So, yeah, in a way, slightly surprised with the evaluations aren't higher, to be honest, and yeah, but pretty convinced that they'll start to rise. Although Stockfish is, what is Stockfish thinking of? Oh, sorry, I'm clicking in the wrong place there. So, what is Stockfish thinking of here? Dun, dun, dun. My YouTube channel is growing fast. Wow. Fantastic. Yeah, no, it was a totally new channel. So just always do a new channel for a new book. And yeah, just always nice somehow, you know, and it's no, lovely place to and perfect, you know, to start the new channel on the TCC. Absolutely perfect like this. So what is Stockfish doing here? Because, oh no, has Stockfish's PV changed again? Yeah, it's changed again. Just for a moment it was coming up with something quite interesting, but it's changed back again. So again, it's looking at this ending. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get it. Ah, no, here it was. Knight G4. So what Stockfish is looking at here is just to avoid the exchange of queens, which doesn't seem silly to me, and play like this. So it's absolutely wrecked its position. I mean, strategically, this is absolutely hopeless. But the question is this creating counterplay somehow? I mean, there's all sorts of rook takes h5 things here, which look very, very tempting, but maybe not. Maybe nothing huge here. Micro Blunderino is being claimed in the chat. Let me just paste PGN, import. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this sort of thing. No, just go on one more. Queen E2, Rook BA8. Rook A7. Really, it's this sort of thing in the PV. Yeah, this knight on G4 doesn't look so solid really, but I guess, you know, this is the sort of thing that you'd want to do with white. Well, yeah, it is the sort of thing you'd want to do with white really. I'm trying to work out why isn't this mating actually. I was wondering whether Rook A2 would be possible, because if Knight A2 we've got Queen B2 mate, but if I just take with the king, doesn't look so bad. Rook A8, King B1, Queen D3 is going to be mating. Okay, so that is actually quite good. So probably quite difficult to put too much firepower in the way. So yeah, maybe. You never know with Stockfish. It's nowadays with its NNUE component, it finds all sorts of things. Ah, good old quote to 8.2 again. Fantastic. Yeah, so Stockfish really has found something interesting there. You know, it's just if this sort of structure on the king side really does hold. Yeah, sorry Tessia, I've just realised wrong board. Luffy, I am from England, so south of England. Have I played against Magnus Carlsen? I am too old for that, or he is too young. Yeah, by the time I stopped professional chess, I don't think was Magnus born? Maybe not even. Who knows? So it's no, never played him. It's it wouldn't be anything remarkable, to be honest. If I played him, I think I'd just simply lose like most other people. Really very intrigued as to see what Leela's going to do about Stockfish's plan, because it's really completely different to anything that Leela's expecting. Although, no, still, I mean, Leela's always expecting Stockfish to put its queen within exchanging distance. You know, with queen c4. So there's always the possibility to exchange, queens in Leela's lines, but in Stockfish's lines on the right, yeah, it's completely different. Simply, you know, I mean, Black's actually really, you know, trying to attack and use active play to hold White back. So very, very interesting. A really good defense. You know, it's just. Hey, Juan Shi, greetings. Oh, we've got chatters. It's 12:07 a.m. at the moment. Wow. And going to bed already. My goodness me. When you think there's so much more TCC to happen, and you're going to miss all of it during the night. It's I do love the super final when you know, you just wake up every morning and you just look at your phone first thing that you do, you know, and just see what happened, who won, who lost, where was the scam. It's yeah, always enjoy doing that. So really interested to see how Stockfish does this. Stockfish spending a lot of time, yeah. Stockfish, oh no, just 2 minutes 42. Well, what's the time spending here? I have a feeling that Stockfish has been spending a lot of time, but well, it's had its peaks, I suppose, but not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, Stockfish thinking, but its variation is not changing. So the only thing about it is that yeah, this is the sort of position that Leela's pretty good at. I mean, if there is a way to extract the black queen from there and gradually reel black in, then Leela will find it. I mean. It's the sort of thing that Leela does very well, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure somehow. I mean, we can easily chase the queen back to c5 or something, but I mean, it's not easy for White to get free. I mean, you need a knight on c3 to defend a2, you know, and that sort of stuff. So, interesting, interesting. But I think, you know, probably in the PVs you sort of see the difference in approach. Really, you see Leela's thinking, oh, okay, we need to exchange off the queens and hobble to an ending a little bit worse, and try and hold it. And yeah, Stockfish is saying, I must, you know, I'm worse. I need to do something exciting. I need to attack. And yeah, just interesting, really interesting to see. Oh, wait a minute. I've got another parcel. Just non-stop today. Oh. Oh. Right, what did I miss? Queen takes c2. Not so much. Now, come on, Stockfish. Show us your wild streak. Going to get quite interesting. Probably going to keep on streaming until about 5:30 for us, another 15 minutes. I'm going to have a little break. Going to have dinner with my parents, I think, and then afterwards we'll come back and do some more streaming tonight. Might even, maybe, no, probably not. Probably won't see one of my openings again, but we'll see the reverse of this game. That should also be very, very interesting. It's good game so far. I mean, really interesting, and yeah, you know, both engines just seem to have a different character, really. That's really sometimes not always clear, you know. That's but here it's really coming out. You know, different ways of defending, different strengths, different weaknesses. So yeah, indeed, the claw. The Adventures of Penelope Pit Stop. I love that. I love that that program. That was fantastic. There was also Catch That Pigeon as well, with that was also fantastic. It's a really amazing program. Really amazed how much time I must spend watching TV as a child. I barely watch any TV nowadays, but just as a child I knew all the programs. So let's see. I'll be really disappointed if Stockfish doesn't play c4 and go for it big time. But Stockfish's PV still looking pretty constant at this structure. Or is it? No! Queen a6. It's gone back to wanting to swap off the queens. Curses. That's a real shame. I don't think that's the best, but okay. It's doing it. Funny, really, that both engines are playing rook d3. It's really, really strange. Then later exchanging with rook e3 afterwards. I mean, if you look at Stockfish's PV, you know, they're going rook d3, and then afterwards they're going rook d2, and then exchanging. You really wonder why on earth, you know, why wouldn't I just in this position, you know, if exchanging the queens is good for me, why on earth wouldn't I just take the queens off now? You know, it's not a tempo here. It's not a tempo that's really going to make the difference, you would have thought. But yeah, I guess we're just trying to make it a bit more awkward for black to to find something really, I guess, because you know, if black plays c4, then we move the rook over to f3. So yeah, you're just just a fine way of keeping your options open. But it is quite surprising, you know, that to sort of see a move like rook d3, and then afterwards you waste a move with rook d2 to exchange the rooks off again. But I guess it's just probably it doesn't matter for tempi. It's probably coming out to the same thing in some crazy way. Stockfish is back to this sort of structure again, but with the queen on c4, which doesn't particularly feel like an improvement, really. So yeah, Stockfish is looking for this one. Yeah, I don't know about that. That doesn't feel like an improvement to you know, to give white a protected past h pawn. It really doesn't feel like a good thing to do. Just makes so many other endings just you know, much nicer for white. I mean, in these sort of positions, you know, I don't know, but I mean, in these sort of positions, you're just thinking, well, I'll just move my king over to the king side then, and then just gradually advance my queen side pawns. You know, it's look at 47 piece endgames using table bases. No, I mean, I use the six-man table bases quite often, especially when analysing engine games. But I don't. But yeah, not. Yeah, I mean, not just to help with analysis. Really, it's. So I guess yes is the answer, but I must say the book is much more about middle games than end games. But yeah, no, I do use table bases when certainly when analysing the engine games, because you can't do without them. It's so rook a7 fg. Yeah, we're going to get. It looks like we're back to this exchange, and Leela's evaluation is rising again up to 0.62. Stockfish's is quite modest, actually. It's really Stockfish seems quite happy with this defensive structure with queens off. I don't know. It just looks really just looks like a sort of position that that just is going to end up being a white win inevitably. You know, with just with some trouble. You know, obviously you're playing Stockfish, but not enormous amounts of trouble. So no, might just be wrong. Yeah, Stockfish getting more and more positive. Look at that, 0.87. I mean, this does not look like you know, like something that's improving, really. I mean, I suppose the only but I mean, you know, what are you doing here? I I don't understand. I mean, what I don't like at all about what about this this PV is the knight being on G5. You know, I really think this knight doesn't have that much that it can do. I mean, Stockfish puts it on E6, but even from E6, it's not doing a great deal, really. So, I mean, it's threatening knight F8 there, but we can just move our rook back. So, I'm not too keen on that. I mean, I would really want this knight to be coming back to the queen side, and the only thing you've got to be careful about is you want to keep on targeting the F7 pawn so that black can't get in knight G4. But I did think that if you know, that if you played sorry, I better pick up the PV whack. Import. That if you played you know, you play we'll just make waiting moves, but just to get the idea across. But if you play it like this, you just put your rooks up here so that they're attacking the knight and then attacking the pawn in F7, and then just move this knight round to here to E3. Ah, curses. Never goes well, these arrows. Clear. Let's just get it right, shall we? Clear, clear, clear. There we are. Knight to there, then knight to here, attacking the pawn on C4, and then, you know, at some stage you're going to get in G4, or maybe rook G4, rook G5 check, and knight F5. You know, I think that looks like you know, a really strong plan to me. And I mean, the question is whether, you know, black can stop this by maybe lining up on the B2 pawn or something like that. But I think this is really what this is the goal that white should be, you know, really looking for. I don't really think that, you know, putting the knight on G5 is the way to go, because I just don't see the scope that this piece has. It's not contributing anything to a kingside advance or anything. So, yeah, I'll be intrigued to see how Leela does this. But I would have thought, you know, that this would be very, very, very good for white this ending. But yeah, Leela's not looking so excited anymore, and it's also playing knight G5. So yeah, what do I know? It's it is very it is very strange. It is very strange. I mean, you know, in all fairness, I mean, you could you can put the knight on G5 and then bring it back later. I mean, it doesn't ruin anything, but it does seem odd. I mean, I really am thinking then that presumably there's some clever way then that we can stop this. I mean, maybe you just go rook B8, rook E5. Let's just go rook A6, rook F3, and maybe just at this moment you go rook B6. I mean, because if you go if you just play a waiting move, then we play the knight to F2 and then the knight to D1 or something like that. You know, and well, we've covered, and we're going to work out a way to get the pieces moving. But maybe, yeah, maybe if you just do something like this, there's no way that that white can get his knight over to the queen side. Maybe this knight is stuck over there, because if you go, you know, you can't go here, because then the B2 pawn hangs, and if you if the knight goes from to G1 and then to F3, then the black knight goes to G4, just gets out of the way basically, and then black plays F6, and you've improved the position as well. So it might well be that what you want to do just is somehow not quite possible, but that's quite that would be quite shocking, really. So what is Leela's PV here? End position is, wow, how did that happen? Let me just lock it. Just unlock Stockfish. Oops. So what is Leela doing here? La la la. Okay, and then it's going for this. Interesting. Interesting, yeah. Yeah, this does actually look like black's holding this one. That's yeah, it's quite quite plausible play, this really. I think, you know, what's happening is that probably, you know, so I was looking to bring this knight on g5. I wanted it back on e3, but presumably Leela thinks that it can't do that. It can't arrange that. So it's putting its knight on g5 to defend e4, and then in principle this knight can move around, improve its position. But yeah, whilst this knight is moving around, then Stockfish is going to create counterplay against the a-pawn, and yeah, somehow in this line from Leela's PV, it looks like it really does look like looks like black's managing that kind of that Leela PV. That looks sort of drawn. So yeah, the padlock. That's just the world's best feature. The padlock, incredible. I think yeah, you become a TCEC one dan basically when you know how to use the padlock. That's but it's a great GUI. This it's got so many features, really incredible. So right, well, I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to call an end to this stream just for now. I'm going to take about an hour and a bit break, just to have dinner with my parents,